Hey guys, I'm Teresa. Welcome to my channel, Sweet.t.reads. Today is a really good day because today, October 27th, is my birthday! And I'm excited. I'm just like kind of taking a lazy day today because I can, because it's my birthday, and why the heck not? Just, treat myself. And I've been wanting to put this video out for such a long time, and I know it's kind of getting towards what most people consider the end of the spooky season, so maybe this is a bit late in coming. But honestly, I don't care because I feel like this needs to be out there. I don't really see anybody at all talking about this. Would it be considered a niche Christian fiction, Christian thriller, suspense, horror? Is that like a niche, or would that be considered a genre or a subgenre, subcategory? Anyways, whatever it is, I don't ever really hear or see anybody talking about these kind of books. So I was like, you know what? We need to make a video because these are amazing books. I do know that some of you may be really turned off by the word Christian fiction or Christian in general. I understand that religion can be really off-putting to a lot of people, but I'm hoping that you will kind of give me a chance to talk to you about these books. None of these books, at least to my memory, my knowledge, are like hardcore Jesus books. They're not like Bible thumping you and being like, this is God and da-da-da. Like, they don't really talk about it. Most of these books, I think, inference. What's the word? Inference. Like, they kind of talk about spiritual stuff that you can kind of pick up certain things throughout, but it's not like hardcore God, if that makes any sense. So hopefully, you're not too turned off by that word. Also, if you hear buzzing in the background, I have a fan going because my puppy right now, I have a little German Shepherd puppy, and he is taking a nap, and so I desperately need him to sleep. And so I have the fan on to kind of create some white noise for him in the background so I don't wake him up with my talking. Last thing before I start talking about these books, I'm really curious if y'all guess my age. I've always been told that I look younger than I am, but lately I feel like my age has caught up with me. I really feel that I'm kind of looking my age. So I'm very curious to see. This might be like gonna bite me in the butt, and people are gonna say that I'm like way older than I really am. And if that's the case, then I'm going to be talking to my esthetician and being like, girl, help me. But I'm curious to what you all think, how old I am. Comment down below, see if you can guess my age, and I'll let you know at the end of this video, and we'll see if you were right. I do have a couple different, subcategories that I'm going to be talking about. So say okay, if you like occult stuff, paranormal kind of stuff, then read these books. If you like serial killers, then read these books. If you like ancient mysteries, then read these books. Hopefully, I can kind of pick out a couple different types of books within the spooky genre, within the Christian spooky genre, to kind of showcase for you guys. Some of these books I haven't read in a very long time. Also, some of these books I have not read yet, but they are on my TBR, so I will definitely be telling you that because I can't necessarily recommend them because I've read them, but they're ones that sound really interesting to me and I think others might like as well. Okay, so the first kind of category we're going to go with is serial killer. So the first book I have to show you is a book by my favorite author of all time. That would be the author Ted Dekker. And the first book that I have to show you guys is called Adam by Ted Dekker. This is a mixed media. It has like newspaper articles and different things in here that relate to the story, relate to the killer. You have, pictures and different things. This book is about a serial killer named Eve, and Eve has killed 16 young women. So the thing is, this killer kills women and basically leaves them in these underground caverns, and I believe, if I can remember, everyone is kind of like, all of his murders kind of have a religious overtone. Have Daniel Clark, who is a profiler. He is trying to find and capture the killer before he kills again. Well, something happens to Daniel, and this is not a spoiler because it's literally on the blurb and it's like happens at the very beginning of the book. He finds Eve, the killer, and the killer kills him pretty early on, actually. He's fatally shot, and he dies, but he is magically, or not magically, but miraculously, I guess you could say, resurrected after 20 minutes of clinical death. So he's obviously saved by the paramedics, by the hospital and all that, but he was considered clinically dead for 20 minutes. In real life, I think I don't think he'd come back from that. If you do, you'd probably be brain dead. I don't know. So now that he has come back to life, like, he knows that he saw the killer's face, but he cannot remember who he is or what he looks like because of the trauma of literally being fatally shot. So now he's digging even deeper into this, and the killer has even more, like, has kind of pinpointed on him and was like, knows he didn't kill him, so he's like, I'm gonna come after you, I'm gonna come after your family. And Daniel, the profiler, is being driven like kind of crazy because he knows who the dude is, but he cannot unlock that memory in his brain, and he's dealing with like crazy severe panic attacks, as one would. And then, of course, the killer is, like, striking close to home. And at the end here, it says, and Daniel's obsession explodes into a battle for his life, his sanity, and his very soul. This book, I feel like I never give books justice for, like, what they are. This is very much, if you like any kind of profiler, serial killer, you know, like the killer going after the person who's trying to find them, kind of that cat and mouse game, I think you really like this book. It does deal with, again, the killer kind of has like symbolism and religious overtones. Daniel is basically spiraling, trying to find him and remember what happened before he was shot. So, if that sounds interesting at all to you, I promise it's much better than what I'm like portraying. I would highly, highly recommend picking up Adam. It's actually one of my favorite books by Ted Dekker. I think it is so well done. If that sounds interesting at all, I highly recommend picking up Adam by Ted Dekker. The next book I have is one I have not read yet, but I am very excited to read. I'm just gonna kind of read you the blurb. I know some people don't like that, but it's very short, I promise, and it's basically the best way that I can tell you about this book, as I have yet to read it. This is another serial killer book, and to be honest, this kind of reminds me of, just from the synopsis, it reminds me of Saw. So if you like that kind of thing, this might be the book for you. And that is The String by Caleb Bakery. It's either Breaky or Breaky. I don't know how to pronounce that, but there you go. So let's read the back of it, shall we? Welcome to The String. Let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1, participation is mandatory. Rule number 2, if any one person refuses to play, the threats to all players will come to pass. Since this is my game, allow me to introduce myself. I am the conductor. Just as musicians in a symphony, there we go, must follow the conductor's direction, the selected students and staff of Trenton University must submit to my commands, or risk massive chaos and deadly consequences. Even that pesky university cop, Marcus Haas, who thinks he'll find a way out of the impossible dilemma in which I've trapped him. Oh, the surprises I have for him. Ready to play? So yeah, it definitely gives me Saw vibes for sure. It kind of feels like it might be, I don't know if you consider it dark academia, but it's obviously taking place in a university. So I think if you like serial killers, you like twisted psychological, kind of messed up people doing messed up things, as Audrey from Chapter and Converse always says, if you like books set in school, university, then I think you should pick this one up. Again, I personally haven't read it yet, so I can't recommend it on that, but just from what it sounds so good, and I'm going to be reading this soon. So yeah, that is The String. And the last kind of strictly serial killer book that I have, it's another Ted Dekker book. He's actually written quite a few that kind of fit this category, but the one I'm going to be talking about today is The Bride Collector. This is one that I read a very long time ago. Let me see when this book came out. This book came out in 2010, and I think I read it like right when it came out. This book is basically about a serial killer, the bride collector, who is murdering beautiful women. It says he loves them because they are beautiful. He kills them because he loves them. So at the crime scene, at every scene of these women who are murdered, he leaves a handwritten note and a bridal veil. So this is basically about an FBI agent. The other one was about a profiler. This one's about specifically an FBI agent. And he is trying to find this serial killer. Well, he ends up enlisting the help of 4 people from a institution. It's called the Center for Wellness and Intelligence, private home for gifted mentally ill residents. So he meets with these people who are, I guess you could say, maybe like savants in a way, or just very, very mentally gifted, but also mentally ill. And he works with these people. He meets this one gal who he becomes really close with, and she's really helping him see through the killer's eyes, like kind of getting into the mind of the killer and why he does what he does. This young lady actually, or young woman, I guess, does suffer from psychosis. That is her diagnosis. So there is trigger warnings in this book. If you do have mental illness, just know that that is something that is talked about. Again, I read this book when it came out in 2010. I don't know how well it's held up as far as that is concerned. So if there is some problematic stuff in here, please don't at me. You know, I read it a long time ago, but I remember it was really good. So I'll just read you a quick little snippet of this because it's been so long I don't really remember, and I don't want to give anything away or kind of mess stuff up. So it says, Rains, who is the FBI agent, is quickly drawn to a young woman named Paradise who struggles with psychosis. As they grow closer, he begins to see the world through her eyes. Together they enter the killer's deadly game and begin to close in. But like Paradise, the bride collector is supremely gifted and has a distinct advantage. This is his game. Now, Paradise will be pushed to beyond her limits. She will learn what it means to be beautiful and what it means to love, really love. Full of surprising wit and hair-raising twists that will keep you riveted to the end, the bride collector will haunt you with a new way of looking at beauty, love, and the world in which you live in. So one thing I really love about Ted Dekker and his writing is he very much kind of turns conventional thought on its head, and he's not afraid to go to dark places and tackle heavy subjects. So if that sounds interesting at all to you, I would say check this out. Another really, really good one that I would recommend, which is actually blurbed here, is the Bowman's Daughters. That one I can't remember. I think it also is serial killer, but it deals with kidnapping of young women and kind of father's struggle to find his kidnapped daughter and bring her home. So that is Bowman's Daughters. So if that sounds interesting to do, check that one out too. But again, I recommend this as well. Okay, let's kind of move on. This next book has to do with the killer, but I think it's more rooted in ancient history, ancient mythology. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, this might be the book for you. And that is Here Comes a Horseman by Robert Leparlo. Leparlo? I can never pronounce the author's names. I'm so sorry. I'm awful. This book is one that I have not read yet either. I've had this on my TBR for a really long time, so I'm excited to get to this one soon. So I can't recommend it in the sense of I've read it, but I can recommend it as it seems very fitting for this category. Let's read a little bit of what the back says here. It kind of gives you a gist of this. The ancients saw death as a blazing figure on horseback, swift and merciless. Those facing the black chasm often mistook their pounding hearts for the beating of hooves. Now, two FBI agents pursuing a killer from a centuries-old cult, they realize they have become his prey. To survive, they must ignore their own fear, their own hearts pounding in their ears, pounding like death, riding a pale horse. This kind of takes place, I believe it takes place in America. They're FBI, so yeah, it's Americans. But they end up going to Jerusalem and find out there's like all these like caverns and things under the city of Jerusalem, and there's like these really ancient cult and mythology that this killer is kind of entwined in, conspiracy theory. And also something that I think I should point out is it says that there seems to be absolutely no commonality between victims, which is very rare for serial killers, right? And an evidence that the killer uses wolf dogs to restrain his victims or his targets. So you got like kind of a mixture of a lot of things. You got FBI, you got cults, you got ancient mythology, you got freaking wolf dog things, you got serial killers, you know. So this one does sound really, really good. Again, I have not read this, nor have I read anything by this author before, but I know he has a lot of books kind of in this genre. So if that sounds interesting, definitely check this one out. It's a bit of a thicker one, but hopefully it's worth the read. Sorry if the angle has changed at all or sound or anything. My dog woke up, so I had to go take care of him for a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about paranormal stuff. So the first book that I'm going to show you guys is by another favorite author of mine, and that is The Oath by Frank Peretti. This book, man, I read this book when I was like 14 years old, and it, to this day, sticks with me. I can still remember there was a scene in here that has to deal with a lot of rot and decay, and I remember like smelling it. Like, that is how immersive I got into this book. I really feel like Frank Peretti's books are very atmospheric, very immersive. You really feel like you're in the story with the characters. So this book has kind of like small town vibes. If you like scary books that has to do with rituals, small towns, kind of town secret, outsider coming in, trying to figure out what's going on, possible paranormal, possible not. We don't know. If you like that kind of book, then this one is going to be for you. Also Pacific Northwest. If you're a Pacific Northwest reader, which Michael Nip, I know you are, I don't know if you've ever read The Oath. If you haven't, get on it, man. It is so good. But anyways, Frank Peretti is from the Pacific Northwest, and so a lot of his books take place here, which I'm from the Pacific Northwest as well, so of course that niche has a special place in my heart. And you get creepy books, small towns, in the wood, in the Pacific Northwest. Yes, that's like perfect book for me. So, what is this book about, you say? An ancient sin, an ancient oath, a town with a deadly secret. Basically, there is this small town. It's called Hyde River. It's an isolated mining town in the Pacific Northwest. People have kind of been dying, disappearing, things have been happening. So the latest victim, nature photographer Cliff Benson, was brutally killed while camping in the mountains. With little hard evidence to go on, Sheriff Les Collins closes the case, chalking it up to the work of a rogue bear. Just like so many other unsolved deaths and disappearances that have plagued Hyde River over the years. So yeah, this guy is killed in what seems like an animal attack, but his brother, who is a wildlife biologist, comes to town and was like, yeah, that ain't no bear attack. Like, what happened to my brother? So he's basically trying to find out what's going on in this town, what happened to his brother, how he was killed. He ends up meeting up with a deputy who has lived in this town her whole life and feels like a lot of shady stuff is going on, because she's like, yeah, I feel like the police department is hiding a lot of things. So together they kind of go on this investigation to find out, what is the town hiding? What is this secret? What is this thing that is killing people? Is it a person? Is it a supernatural? Is it an animal? Is it, who knows what it is? So, you know, you get that small town, like everyone's close-knit, doesn't want to talk about anything, ancient rituals kind of stuff. Just such a good book, and I highly recommend it. It's a bit long. It is 550 pages long, so it's a bit of a chunk, but it's very, very good. Perfect. I mean, this is probably one of the most perfect books out of all of them that I've picked out for this time of year. So if you like anything that I have described, if you think that might be kind of up your alley, I highly recommend checking out this book. Next, we have a book that this actually is also written by Frank Peretti and Ted Decker, and that book would be House. This book, I'm just going to read you the back of it because it's such an interesting story that I have to read you the back before I can really dive into this so you really understand. Enter House. Well, you'll find yourself thrown into a killer's deadly game in which only way to win is to lose and the only way out is in. The stakes of the game become clear when a tin can is tossed into the house with rules scrawled on it. Rules that only a madman, or worse, could have written. Rules that make no sense yet must be followed. 1 game, 7 players, 3 rules, game ends at dawn. And it has the tin can here, so I'm going to read you the rules because it gives you kind of the atmosphere of this book. Welcome to my house. House rules. Number 1, God came to my house and I killed him. Rule 2, I will kill anyone who comes to my house like I killed God. Rule 3, give me 1 dead body and I might let Rule 2 slide. You have until dawn. Yes. So this book is about a couple different people who get lost out in the middle of nowhere kind of, and they end up at this house because there's a huge storm, a bunch of roads closed down. So they all kind of end up at this creepy house. And as the night progresses, you start to find out that this house is no ordinary house. The caretakers of this home are very creepy, very kind of not what they seem to kind of like, maybe they're in on it, maybe they're not. This book deals with paranormal, so you're really kind of go into this home and it's almost like a haunted house trope. So if you like haunted houses, it doesn't necessarily have ghosts per se, but very paranormal, very creepy, weird house, middle of nowhere, no way to get out. This creepy person is there saying like you need to kill somebody and I might not kill all of you. You do have some gore in this book. It's not like super gory, but there is definitely some gore. This is I mean I would really say this is more of a horror than a suspense in my opinion, like a really like a light horror. So if you like haunted houses, you know, kind of like reminds me of kind of like, or it's not reminds me, but it's kind of like one of those things where you like open a door that like before was like a closet and now it like leads to a whole other part of the house. Then you go through one door and then you're somewhere else. You like go, you know, all that kind of stuff. And there's these rooms that don't make sense and these hallways and the people there and they're trying to kill you and you're trying to escape and all this craziness that's going on is in this book, and it is so good. So I recommend House by Frank Peretti and Ted Decker. Sorry about the change in probably everything. Lighting, sound, location. The next book that I'm going to talk about is When the Day of Evil Comes by Melanie Wells. This book is very much spiritual warfare, very much paranormal. Think demons, think, you know, like Amityville Horror, think Paranormal Activity, Conjuring, all that kind of stuff. Really kind of has elements in this book, I think. So if you like that kind of stuff, I think you'd probably pretty much like this one. So this one, I'm just going to read like a little blurb from the top because it kind of sets up the vibe of this book and why I feel like some of these horror movies will kind of fit with this one. So it says, I saw the first fly alight on the edge of my plate during supper. This was no ordinary fly. It was huge, the size of a small Volkswagen. I could have painted daisies on it and sold rides to small children. So this book is about a woman named Dylan Foster who is a psychology professor at a college in Texas. As the school year starts, so coming out of the end of the summer into fall, weird things start happening to her. And she has a really weird encounter with a ghastly, pale stranger, which I think is supposed to be the person on the cover, I don't know. And then her mother's engagement ring turns up, but the thing is, this ring was buried with her mother 2 years ago. She also starts noticing flies just kind of appearing all over her place, which really makes me think Amityville Horror. So a former patient accuses her of impropriety. There is a suicide that happens to someone close in her life, and things just start getting insane and crazy, and she's trying to figure out what is this, what is happening, why are these things happening, demonic kind of beings and entities and kind of poltergeist activity. So it's basically just about this woman who's kind of being haunted in a way. So if you like that kind of storyline, I would definitely check this one out. I did really enjoy this book. So the next book that I have to tell you about is The Resurrection by Mark Duran. So what happens in this book is there's a small coastal town. So if you like small town vibes, again, this is another one of those to like go along with that. Basically, this is a zombie book. Maybe. I don't know if they're like actually zombies, but it does say that this woman named Ruby Case raises a boy from the dead. So you got that, and then you have some people calling her a witch, others are calling her a godsend, and I guess all this like turmoil and stuff has started happening in this small little town ever since she raised the boy from the dead. There's some weird stuff going on. And then you have a reverend who basically no longer believes in his faith. He's kind of hanging up his collar. He's like, I don't want anything to do with anything anymore. It says he's haunted by demons, both past and present. And he's kind of like, I don't care what happens to this town spiritually because I'm done with you all. Well, something happens, I guess, that puts the two together. And they have to search for answers and trying to figure out what's going on with this town, because apparently some really crazy supernatural stuff starts happening, and it's like this really dark evil that kind of encompasses the town ever since the lady raised the boy from the dead. So I'm guessing she like unleashed some evil, some ancient horror or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned, I haven't read this one yet actually, but it sounds quite interesting. So they have to overcome their own brokenness in time to stop the evil, or will they become its next victim? If you like that kind of thing, kind of more churchy, like maybe paranormal, raising from the dead, spiritual warfare, I'm assuming, kind of evil, not knowing what's going on, small town vibes, check out The Resurrection by Mark Duran. Demon, a memoir by Tosca Lee. Alright, so the way this one works is there is a man who comes across this strange dude, and he grabs his arm and he's like, hey, I'm going to tell you a story, and you're going to remember this story long after you remember all these other things that happened in your life. And it'll either be you will either curse this day or bless this day. We go in to realize that, all right, this is a demon, and he's basically telling this guy his story. And he wants his story told. He wants this guy to take note of what he has experienced, what he has gone through in his life. I haven't read this book since 2010, so that might be able to tell you a little bit of, why I don't remember a whole lot about it. But if you like supernatural, if you like demon stories, if you like origin stories, this would be one for you. Hangman's Curse by Frank Peretti, and this is a duology. This is the Beatrice Project, Volume 1. I believe Beatrice stands for truth in Latin. Don't quote me on that though. So this is kind of a mixture of possibly paranormal, possibly not. We don't know. So the Beatrice Project, which is, I think that stands for truth. Basically, there are this secret investigation group that is commissioned by the president to basically go in and find out, undercover, and find out these really weird happenings, what's really going on. And so you have twins Elijah and Alicia and their parents, and they are part of this project that the government has kind of sanctioned. And so their job is to be sent into this high school where these kids have come up delusional, weird things start happening to them, they start dying, and they believe that it is the Hangman's Curse, that the ghost of a kid named Abel Fry is actually haunting the school. He hung himself in the 1930s, and so they have this whole urban legend in their school about Abel Fry and how he is coming back and killing these kids. So you have these kids who are basically, it says, they're student athletes. They lie in incoherent comas with loss of muscle coordination, severe paranoia, and hallucinations. And after each victim, or on each victim's locker, is a little hangman symbol. So that's of course why they're like, oh my gosh, it's this ghost and the curse, and they're coming to basically take out the popular kids because this kid was bullied to death and that's why he hung himself. Or he was bullied, that's why he hung himself. So now he's taking on the bullies, and these kids have to basically go into this school and infiltrate it, I guess, and pretend to be students there so they can figure out the truth behind it, what is actually going on. If you are into that kind of thing, if you like YA, mystery, horror, thriller, this would definitely be one to check out. I didn't like the second one as much. I can't remember what it was called, but this book was very, very good. Yeah, The Hangman's Curse by Frank Peretti. And the last book I have for you is a non-fiction, and it happens to be sitting right behind me. This is Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin. And this is the possession and exorcism of 5 contemporary Americans. And guys, I said this is non-fiction, right? So non-fiction, demon possession, exorcism of 5 contemporary Americans. So it's not like this happened forever ago in the Dark Ages or whatever. I think this stuff takes place in the 90s. So 70s to the 90s, I think. So it's not like it was that long ago. I mean, okay, I know that is that long ago, but when you're talking modern day, it wasn't like it was in the 1800s or something like that. This is a book that is just literally what it says. It's 5 stories of contemporary people, contemporary Americans, who dealt with demon possession and exorcism. Movies like The Conjuring with Ed and Lorraine Warren, or Annabelle, that kind of thing. This is very reminiscent of that because those are actually based on true stories, right? Annabelle is true. The Conjuring, it's a true story. Ed and Lorraine Warren are real people. Lorraine Warren, I believe, she might have passed away, but she was still alive a couple of years ago. Their museum is real. That kind of paranormal stuff. And Ed was a demonologist. And so if you are into paranormal, the poltergeist, the demonic, the exorcists, and that kind of thing, but are looking for a non-fiction, which to me is the scariest of all. This book is legit, probably the scariest book of all, because it's real. Whether or not you believe it's real, the people in this book experienced real things and went through real things. Whether you believe it's psychosis or demonic possession, that's up to you to decide. But the author is a theologian. He is the premier authority on the Roman Catholic Church and former professor at the Vatican's Pontifical Bible Institute. So it's very Catholic heavy. I am not Catholic, I am Christian, but Catholics are usually the ones that deal with exorcisms and that sort of thing. The Catholic Church kind of handles that. And this guy that wrote it used to be a professor at a Catholic university. He's a theologian, and he kind of just compiled all of these stories into this book. And this book inspired one of Ted Decker's books. It may have been Adam. I feel for some reason it was Adam. I could be wrong on that. But that's how I heard about this, was I was looking at videos on Ted Decker, and he was doing an interview, and he referenced this book and said that this book was his inspiration for one of the books that he wrote. This, I'm guessing, is probably pretty dense, as it is a nonfiction, and it is about possession, the Catholic Church. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that has to do with like Catholic rituals and obviously exorcisms. This Hostage to the Devil is a controversial nonfiction bestseller, a chilling and true account of possession and exorcism in modern America, hailed by NBC Radio as one of the most stirring books of the contemporary scene. So if that at all sounds interesting to you, like even if you legit don't believe in this kind of stuff, I still think, you know, this would be a very interesting read, because, you know, if you're into psychology or that kind of thing, or the paranormal or any of that realm of thought or existence or being, this one would be a really good one to check out. I am so freaking excited. I'm going to start this one tonight and just get to it, because I cannot wait. Okay, guys, that's all. That is all the books that I am going to be talking about to show you. I do have some more that I can recommend. If you're interested, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know. Comment down below if you've ever read any of these books, if any of these books sound interesting to you. Again, thank you for watching. I do know that this might be kind of a controversial video, or not necessarily controversial, but more of like, a lot of people probably won't click on it because it's Christian, or it's Christian in the title, and you know, a lot of people don't read Christian fiction, which is fine. But I do, and I'm sure there's others out there like me who do, and since I'd never see it talked about, I was like, I have to get this out for you guys. So, with that said, I will close up and tell you how old I am. I'm 33 years old today. I was born October 27th, 1988. So how'd you do? Did you guess way young? Did you guess my age? Did you guess way old? If that's the case, then I really need to, like, moisturize. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope this video wasn't too long or too crazy all over the place. I had to stop it so many times because of my puppy, but it is what it is. You gotta love puppies. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and I will talk with you all soon. Bye!